So today we are talking about dating apps. So we're going to go over types of dating apps, navigating them, how to safely use them, and just a little bit more. This is just a general overview because there are many, many dating apps which we will talk about. What is a dating app? So it's a website or an app focused on connecting people in hopes of starting a relationship. Now, a relationship, this is broad because while the majority are for romantic relationships, you have the option to also look for new friends, casual meetups, casual hookups, people to go to certain places with, and so much more. You know, the internet definitely networks people in many different ways. The basics of a dating app are that you're going to fill out a profile, you know your name, your age, simple things, answer some questions. Sometimes they'll give you prompts of like, what's your ideal date, or things like that that would kind of engage people and see how you would match up. You put up a picture and then you're ready to navigate the app. There are so many different dating apps that if you are looking for something specific, I promise you a Google search will lead you in the right direction. If you're looking for a dating app specifically for vegans, living sustainably, New Yorkers, 65 plus, based off of your religion, if that's a top priority for you, like, you can find it. The ones that I'm going to talk about today are more broad. You can definitely put in these priorities and information into your profiles. But if you want something very specific, then you can also find a niche dating app or dating site as well. Now, how do you access dating apps? Pretty simple. You can use it on a computer if it's a site, or your phone on your tablet. Some apps are only meant to be apps, like dating apps are meant to be apps. Some do have a website associated with it. So the ones that are only meant to be an app are only going to be set up on your smartphone or a tablet. You know, anything that you download an app for, like what we've done so many times in the App Store or Play Store. And with the websites, you log in as you would any site that you have login information for. You will need an email, a working email that you have access to verify. Some of the mobile app ones, you might have to connect your number, but usually at the bare minimum, you will need an email. Now, here are some examples. We're starting off with OkCupid. This site I actually have the most experience with. I actually met my partner on OkCupid. I was only looking for friends though, which is really funny, but you know, 5 years and 7 pets later, I guess it all worked out in the end. But how OkCupid works is that they give you lots and lots of questions to better match you with other people, like very specific kind of things, and you prioritize them, and how you answer kind of changes the percentage of how you're linked. There's a whole formula. So you can spend a lot of time really amping up your profile on OkCupid. This one is one that you can have an app or you can use it on a website. I think it works a little better as a website for me personally, just because you can see things a little bigger, but same deal. All of these apps have, you know, the same systems. The layout will just be a little bit different. This is one of the older matchmaking sites, but that doesn't mean it looks old. It actually has really stayed up with the times of people who want to find different types of relationships and the varying kind of degrees of how people want to link up, whether you're monogamous or polyamorous or this or that, you know, very, very, very broad. Next up, we have Tinder. I'm sure everyone has heard of Tinder in some shape or form. I believe it's probably the most talked about one, pretty trendy. And how you match with people, you set up a profile, same deal, profile picture, mini bio, not as long and lengthy as OkCupid, and you swipe whether you like people or you dislike people, right or left, you know, swiping for who you want to link with, who pops up on your feed based on how you match or the vicinity of your area. Tinder is also kind of linked to, this was back in the day, but it was just like the hookup app. So a little more casual, though people have taken it more seriously and have found long-term partners. So it, you know, it's whatever you make of it.
Another thing I wanted to mention too, and hopefully this is not something anyone would ever need, but one of the apps that we talked about last time was Moonlight. And if I'm not mistaken, it's actually built into the Tinder app as well. So if you were ever on a date that was going, that was actually getting to a point where you felt in danger, Moonlight is linked directly to that. But hopefully if you followed all of these sort of steps, you would never get to that point, but just as a sort of side note about that as well.
Next up, we have Hinge, and Hinge kind of marketed themselves on being the last dating app you'll ever need. So they're hoping that you're going to find the love of your life, or at least someone you're going to stay with for a very long time in that sense. And they go with the same kind of concept of the swiping, and it is only an app as well. So swiping on your phone, an app like Tinder, and definitely based on being a long-term dating. Lastly, I have Bumble. So Bumble, very similar to Hinge and Tinder, except Bumble has something a little different going for it, because it isn't only just for finding dates. Of course, all of these apps we're talking about dates, but it is heavily used to find friendships as well as networking. And the difference with Bumble is that women in hetero connecting relationships have to message first before a man can message them. In same sex, both of them have the power to message first, but this is the app where if you are a woman, you are in control of who you want to connect with. You won't be bombarded with messages from anyone. All right, now navigating dating apps. If you're using the app version, it's more than likely the swipe or pass or like or heart type of deal. On the web platforms, it's similar as well, but you'll just see it written out and you're clicking, whether it's a heart or a thumbs up, or you have to message first. It varies, but very similar. If you like someone, there's going to be a button that says like, and if two people like each other, then there's like a mutual like, and usually a message comes up and you're prompted. You'll set up a profile. There has to be at least one picture. Some of them even recommend up to 3. There are a few prompts, like I said, like just to beef up your profile so people can kind of be more engaged in it. And then they have their way of matching you with certain people, whether it's because you're in a similar area, like 5 miles apart, or it's you expanded that to maybe 25 miles apart and you just match based off of something that you answered. You get to set up the distance for who you are looking for your potential matches, sexuality, the types of relationships you're looking for. All of this is in your control and what you're going to put up on your profile. Most of them are very user friendly, just because, you don't want to kind of like click around to try and match up with anyone. You just kind of want to do it go through as many profiles in the shortest amount of time. That's kind of how all of these are set up. You'll get messages from potential people. You can look at them if you want to. You can answer all of them if you want to. Sometimes it could be a little overwhelming, so maybe you won't do that, but definitely look at their profile first. But you'll get a notification if there's a mutual interest and when you receive a message or anything like that. The majority of these dating apps, I'm going to say probably 100%, have some sort of method of giving you a premium account, so paying. All of these have free access as well, though there are some dating apps where you do have to pay right up front. Those are very niche or specific, but the free version ones, they will have aspects that you can use if you pay a monthly fee or an annual fee or something like that. What it kind of does is sometimes you're able to see messages a little earlier, or see messages that are sent to you in a different way, or there's like kind of these little things that might make it easier if you're very, very committed. But if you're kind of dipping your toes in the water and, letting casting your net far and wide and letting the fish come in, and you don't really want to like specifically look for a blue fish, then there's probably no need for the premium account, but it is completely up to you, however you want to invest. Now we get up to honesty. When you are setting up your profile, definitely be yourself. Use a photo that is at most 2 years old, especially if your features haven't changed drastically, because it could be a little deceiving if you're using something very like 10 years older and you look very, very different. So just even if you need to take a new selfie, take a new selfie, go out on a sunny day, go to the park, anything like that. And while you should be the real you when you're talking to people or messaging people, you don't want to lay it all out there very quickly. Because again, this is someone over the internet that you haven't met in person yet, and you'll probably have a few messages. Also, you want to have things to talk about over time if you do consider hanging out with this person on a long-term basis. And all of these apps use some sort of zip code or general location to find potentials. Do not give anyone your exact address or like the area that you live in, especially if you haven't kind of like met at a mutual place first. And we'll go into like how to safely meet people as well. Safety, safety, safety. So while you should be yourself, don't be anyone else. There are others who may not be themselves on these apps, and these are called catfishes because they're pretending to be someone else in order to connect with someone, either for casual conversation or for other intentions. You never know, people are people, but either way, they are not who they are saying they are. So things you want to look out for are if they have photos that look way too professional or are heavily filtered, or they give you very long stories or information that don't really add up, or it's very vague, or they give a lot of information right up front about everything that has happened in their family and their childhood and things, and you kind of just started messaging. And this is a way to gain trust and sympathy, and possibly even coerce you into making a decision by pulling at your heartstrings. And they may make excuses not to meet in person or talk on the phone or video chat or things like that, because if they're not who they say they are, then why would they want you to actually see who they are? And these are all ways that you'd be able to actually see if they're legitimate. Okay, so if you want to start talking to someone offline or not within the app, I do highly suggest setting up like a Google Voice number or like an alternate phone number. And there are apps for that, as well as just Google Voice is an app that you can put on your phone. And it just gives you an alternate number that shows up. And that's the one you can give out to people, and it weeds things out. But there's also Skype, there's Zoom, even Facebook Messenger, if you're okay with people seeing your Facebook, to do a video call. Because then, if you're talking to someone on a video call, obviously that is the person you are talking to, right? But those are some ways, especially now in this social distance time, or before you even meet anyone in person. It's just a good idea to hear their voice first. Maybe send a few text messages. Just don't put it all out there beforehand. But if you want to jump into meeting them in person, because that'll definitely weed everything out, right? Always meet in a public location. Don't go over to their place. Don't invite them over to your place. no matter how hot and heavy you're feeling, meet them in person first. In public, daytime is preferable, or at least, before sunset, or if you're meeting in a public place at night, at least where people can see you. Let people know where you are. Let a trusted friend or relative know where you are, what time you should be getting to certain places. Someone who is willing to keep track of your location during your meetings, because this is the real world. To like give you real world is I met my partner in a bookstore, in a very public bookstore. I let multiple friends know where I was, where I was going. I was also in the city, so surrounded by people. And um, it worked out in the end. But yeah, there are ways to stay safe without being fearful all the time. Because, you know, even talking to someone in person, there's a level of risk with that. But if you're trying to get to know people, if you're trying to connect with people, it's something that has to be done, and just be mindful of how you do it.
Usually, how long does it take to meet someone through these apps?
That depends on you, honestly.
Mhm.
Usually women will get like messages immediately as soon as a new photo comes up. That's kind of like how the dating world goes. Um, so you'll get a lot of messages. Maybe they're not very good. And I talk a lot about making a good profile, but I've seen so many terrible ones, so many bad ones of people that are like looking to get more information from you, but they don't give. And it's just like very bad conversationalists. That's a long way of me saying, again, it is up to you how you could meet someone immediately if you really wanted to. And if they just said hello, you had like a 5-minute chat, and you're just like, you know what, I have a lunch break tomorrow. You want to meet tomorrow because I don't want to waste my time. Like, I don't know. And if you prefer not to like message people either, and that's how you want to do it, doing like lunch dates, grab a coffee. Do I like you? Can you have a conversation? Okay, where do you stand on this, and this? Move it along. Yeah, because if you're looking to get married like yesterday, maybe you want to expedite things. And now, safety for specifically COVID-19. You can also put if you're vaccinated in your app, which is great because maybe you only want to meet up with other vaccinated people just in case. And that's totally fine. Practice social distancing if you are in doubt. Again, meeting in a public space. Also, the weather has gotten so beautiful. It shouldn't be hard to meet someone in the park, and just have some way that you guys can link up and sit on a bench, meeting outdoors so you don't have to wear masks, weather permitting, of course. In conclusion, we have some pros and cons about dating apps. The pros: you connect with people you maybe wouldn't have before. Like I said, the location can be as far as you want it to be. Also, you generally don't really talk to people in person, when you're just walking down the street. So this is a way that kind of like caters to, oh, I wanted to really get to know this type of person. There's a built-in vetting process. So before you even link up with anyone, it's like, will I find this person interesting if I went out to dinner with them? If they can't have a good conversation, just like yes, no, or really vague answers, maybe you don't want to meet them in person, and you don't have to waste your time or your money or anything like that. You have complete and utter control of who you get to like, who you get to message back, anything like that. Do not feel like you have to give everyone your time. That's not the point of this. It's finding who you want to find and who you want to connect with. And a last pro is there are many options, which can also become a con, but we'll talk about that. So the cons: the virtual, real versus fake, and without a good profile or engaging photo, you can be passed by. So there's the safety feature, one of just like, who are you actually talking to? Also, just the swipe process or the like process, or people are looking very quickly, and you'll find it, since there is such a vast amount, is just like, if you don't like the first photo, you're probably passing their profile. If they don't like your first photo, probably passing it along. So it's kind of, you have to make sure your profile is engaging, your photo is engaging, because then you might not wind up connecting with the type of people that you want to connect with. And back to the many options, it can actually be a con because it's so overwhelming. You will see people from here, there, everywhere. And even no matter how you narrow it down, one, many people are in New York City, which has people everywhere, right? Whether it's on the internet or just in person. And then these apps, if you expand it to the tri-state area or even just over to Jersey or anything like that, you're getting thousands of people. You're not in the middle of nowhere, Ohio. Sorry, Ohio, but you're going to have connections to many, many people and many, many options. If you're looking to get out there, I know it can be a little scary, a little daunting, but it is a way to just kind of get to know people. Even just, you're not looking to date yet. You're just looking to kind of, get yourself out there again, and whatever works for you. I've helped many friends set up their profiles. It's kind of fun sometimes, especially because I have had friends that are a little shy. They're like, I want to date someone, but I just want them to like come into my life. The world doesn't really work like that sometimes, especially now that everyone uses a dating app. So you got to put in the effort to get what you want out of it. You have to not expect the right person to just kind of like fall out of anywhere. You kind of have to put in the work. They have to put in the work. That's also in real life. It without dating apps, it's just, dating apps help you not waste your time. If you have a preference, it's more of just like, what I would never date someone who hated animals. So you kind of narrow it down from there, and it takes out the guesswork of me bumping into a very attractive person and then finding out they are a sociopath for animals. I don't know, like, I don't know.
You get to have that conversation much earlier than
Yes.
you might otherwise. Or
Thank
not
you.
even have the conversation. You can see that as part of somebody's profile.
Exactly.
What we want to underscore here is like, not dating apps aren't for everybody. We want to make sure if you are using them, you're using them safely. So that's sort of what we're talking about here, is to keep all of those things in mind when you're meeting someone, even when you're just setting up a profile.